and they have got different subjects. So part one is basically limits an infused products provider to preparing the products at a registered premises and using equipment exclusively for that purpose. Is there any problem with that section?
No.
Can I have a motion on that section?
So moved.
Okay. So all those in favor of adopting section 1, or subsection 1 of this amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
House members? Aye. Senate members? Aye. Aye. Okay, 1 is in. Subsection 2. This requires that a infused products provider is only an infused products provider and may not produce marijuana for any other purpose.
So moved.
Question, comment.
Representative Berry?
Are we trying to split hairs here, Mr. Chair? If you have a provider, am I reading this wrong? Are we going to say, well, you can grow so much for smoking, so much for, something else? I don't know. To me, we should almost leave it up to the provider.
Senator Vincent.
Mr. Chairman, members, I think where the issue gets raised is when, from my understanding, is that some of these infused products, and the reasons that we'll get down here in a few of these other items, is that some take larger amounts than others for different strains, for different ailments, for different things, tinctures, what have you. And so to make sure that those extra amounts aren't being, they would have to submit to, this is what I'm going to be manufacturing. This is, and the department would say, well, this is what it takes to manufacture X, Y, or Z. And to ensure that that person isn't allowed to have the mature plants that produce that, and being able to sell it as a, I guess, in a smokable form, I think that it takes away the potential for abuse, and I think that's what raised the issue of only allowing them to be infused, and to be able to separate the two, so that when you did have an inspection, it would be easier to be able to determine what they had on hand and what it was being used for. That was my interpretation.
Mr. Chair, question for Senator Vincent.
Representative Berry.
Mr. Chair, Senator, but I guess the bottom line is we have, our deal here is 4 mature plants, so we're not going to go beyond that, whether they're using it, however they're using the product, would we, sir?
Senator Vincent.
Mr. Chairman, as I understand this, sub 4 in here, the department shall determine the maximum amount and forms of marijuana that an infused products manufacturer may possess for a conversion into the infused products. And so I was under the understanding that the department would make an allowance for more than 4 plants, should they need to be, for creating the different kinds of infused products that are necessary.
Thank you, Senator.
Further discussion?
I have a question.
Representative Smith.
That kind of gets us into a gray area again that I would be concerned about. I was also probably to increase the number of gray areas. We've talked about a provider being able to have more than one cardholder they're taking care of. Would it be conceivable we might have a provider that has one patient that smokes and one patient that uses infused? And we'll probably have to figure out how we would handle that also.
Senator Vincent.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's what 2 sub A is saying, is that if you're going to be manufacturing infused products, that's what you're manufacturing, and that's who you're providing for.
One or the other, not both.
Then kind of a follow-up question, too. Do we have any idea how much more product we might have for some of these instances out there from discussions that we've had? If somebody was making an oil or the butters or the flours, or, like I said, just a real quick look through the Googling it, it looked like from the 4 or 5 sites I went to, it wouldn't take it wouldn't take any more than what we're talking about with the 4 plants.
Mr. Chairman, perhaps Representative Sands could, I don't know, she's more educated on this than I am.
Representative
Chairman.
Sands, you spent a lot of time during the
Uneducated.
interim on this. Can you
Well,
enlighten
and maybe
the
Ms.
committee?
Connell will remember, this was one of the real conundrums. We heard a lot of people talk about this and could never come up with a number. Frankly, it's one of the gray areas we may just want to ignore, which is what the interim committee chose to do about it, because there really wasn't a number. But the more I've thought about this, and given a mature plant can produce somewhere between, say, 3 and 6 ounces, I think even if we didn't give the department determining the amount of it, that for the most part, within the limit, the 4 mature plants, they, per person, the manufacturer here should have a reasonably good chance of producing an adequate amount of a manufactured product from that limitation without, because otherwise, I don't know how you come up with that number. We never had anybody who said, we had people come to us and say, well, that isn't going to be enough. And I said, well, there's going to be a number. What's the number? We could never really make much progress on that. And so we just didn't address it. So frankly, my sage advice would be, don't say the department shall be determining an amount that's different than what we're just saying for every